Hello, everyone. This hour on Verbling, the next in my Great Short Stories series, we're going to be talking about our last short story, The Destructors, and we're going to be beginning a new short story as well in the second half of class. So, um, we're going to have a little talk because we ran out of time in the last class about the Destructors, what it means, the structure of the story, the characters, the setting, what your reactions were. And we're going to go through some of those discussion questions that I posted for you at the bottom of the class. So let's get started. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Oop, having a little technical problem with the Hangout. I apologize. So, we're going to be beginning a new story today. We're also going to be talking about our last story because we didn't have a lot of time for discussion. Our last story was Graham Greene's The Destructors, and our new story is going to be a story by Jackie Kay, a modern short story called My Daughter the Fox, a very unusual story. Well, we'll be talking about those in just a moment. First, a little bit about me. I'm John Eric, your Verbling teacher for this hour. I'm an American teacher from New York, hanging out from Lisbon, Portugal to bring you this class. By the way, here are 3 quick rules to help you participate. Don't forget to turn off, tune in, and open up. That means please turn off your microphone when you're not speaking so we can keep the classroom nice and quiet. Rule number 2 is to tune in to the new words, the new vocabulary, the new expressions, everything you learn, and use it as actively as you can so I can correct you and give you feedback. Last, open up to your classmates. Relax and have fun. We're all here to learn, and this is a safe and respectful place to practice your English. And that's all you need to know about me. What I'm going to do is share my screen in just a minute. There we go. That's me. Now let's go to there. That's what I wanted to show you. So, Daniel, what does the fox say? What does the fox say?
What it means, a very clever animal.
It is a very clever animal. In fact, you can be as sly as a fox in English. Have you heard that expression?
Uh-huh.
Sly
Yeah,
as
it's in Spain. It's the same, I think.
it's the same.
Mhm.
Anyway, there's my fox.
In fact, I call my younger child Fox Thorough
Really?
because he's, yes, almost 2 years old, but it happened he has 3 years old. Very clever.
What does he do? Why is he clever? Does he do?
Because they have a brother older than him. He learned everything very fast.
Ah, so he's sly as a fox.
Hmm.
Also, sly implies maybe a little bit of trickery. Oh, is that him in the background? Is that the fox?
Yes, yeah, it's on my leg. Or for
Hola.
me, it is my partner.
Hola, ¿qué tal?
I
Well, um, I wanted to ask you, so Daniel, you were the only one here from the last class. I don't know if the others are going to join us, but there he is. Let's see if we can take a look. Hello. Hola.
no, he can't hear you. I
Oh, I
have
can't hear.
headphones.
What's his name?
Eric.
Eric? Like me,
Yes.
John Eric?
Yeah, the same.
Hello, Eric. You little fox.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I wanted to ask you, because we kind of ran out of time in the last class. So I wanted to give everyone a chance to talk about the story that we read last time in the beginning of class. But Moises, you were not here, and Daniel, you were the only one here. So I don't know what we want to do about that. Let me just quick say hello to Moises or Moise. How do I say your name?
Moises, hello.
Moises. Um, So you did not have a chance to read the story on Tuesday, right? You were not here.
No, I just connect now to the class.
Okay. All right. Well, let me just check in with Daniel for a second and see what he wants to do. Because maybe if it's just Daniel, we can talk about it another time. Because I was expecting a few other people, but it seems a little quiet today. So, Daniel, what do you think? Shall we move on to a new story? We didn't really get a chance to talk about the destructors at all. I have some discussion questions, but we ran out of time. Um, so let me just ask you before we move on. Maybe we could just take a quick look at some of the discussion questions from the last story, and if others are going to join us, they can jump in right now, because I don't know. I don't remember who else was here. Or maybe people are out there watching. We've got a lot of people watching. So if you were in the last class, you can also participate in the chat window. We'll see you. So what do you think, Daniel? Should we have a little talk about the destructors before we move on? Because we didn't really have time to discuss it.
Okay, no problem.
Well, I'm asking because you were in the last class. So we didn't really have a chance to talk about it. So should we talk about it for a little bit? I know that Moises was not here, so we can move on, but maybe for the first, I don't know. I just wanted to give you a chance to talk about it because we got cut short. So I don't know.
Okay, yeah,
I'm not sure what to do.
I can say some. Okay, this story could be a good story for a film
That's interesting.
because yes, it's interesting. Is you can you I had a good time reading, uh, but I don't know if the story have a background because my mind is very simple and I don't usually find strange things. I don't know.
What do you mean? What do you mean by background? If it doesn't have a background,
Background,
you mean a deeper meaning.
the meaning of the story. The story, yes.
Let me also just paste a quick link for Moises. This is the link to the last story that I'm showing on the screen. We're not going to read it today. We've already read it, but we didn't really have a chance to talk about it at the end. So maybe we can. Anyway, that's a link to it, so you can download it or read it on your own. And in future classes as well, we can talk about it a little bit if you want to read it. So it's interesting that you say that, Daniel, because Graham Greene is really connected with the world of film. So I think you're making a good point. let's go down to the discussion questions here. I don't know if there's one we can pick up, but in fact, I remember when in the interview where he talked about writing his first play, and he was really worried about the play because he was so connected with movies that he didn't think he could write a play, right? Write a theater piece. And I think you've got a good point. It feels like we're watching a movie, doesn't it?
Yes, because in Hollywood only make second part, third part. It's boring to watch a film. Maybe this could be a good story. Simple, but I don't know.
And it was a film too.
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Okay. I didn't know.
I don't know if I can get a link to it, but I'm pretty sure it's even out there on YouTube. But yes, it was some kind of a film. It is. What makes it cinematic for you, Daniel? What makes the story like a film? What are the qualities, do you think?
Okay, it's about clever kids. It's about guns. It's about war. It's about a very good end for me. You are expecting all time something. At the end, I think they have a good
Ending.
ending. Yes, ending.
Was the
Good
ending
ending.
a surprise?
Yes, yes. I was expecting that the old man could open the door and suddenly what happened was was my furniture, was my walls, but I didn't expect the the end,
In,
the total destruction, the
so,
knockdown.
Moises, in the story we read last time, it's a story during World War II, just after World War II. And in the story, an old man has a house which has not been touched by the war. All the other houses in the neighborhood are basically destroyed or damaged except for one, and the children of the neighborhood plot to do something absolutely crazy. They're going to, when the old man is away, instead of doing sort of little crimes or little mischief like kids do, it's a gang. They decide to enter the house and destroy it from the inside out. So it's a story of how they do that. And in the very end, the surprise is that they weren't able to destroy the house completely because the old man came home, but in a very clever way, they were able to do it at the end in a kind of surprising manner. I'll leave the surprise for you if you want to read it. Um, so I just wanted to get Daniel's reaction because we ran out of time in the last class. So one more thing I could say is that it is very cinematic, and that's part of it. That's part of what people say about him as a writer. So he wrote in a way that a camera films images, and the language doesn't interfere. It's not difficult language. It's very simple, actually. He wrote in this very visual way, and the elements of a Hollywood movie are there. There's danger, there's guns, there's wartime. I agree with you. But do you think that the writing is written the way a movie is shot? Because that's something that people say. In fact, let's take a quick look at this question here. Look at this question here, Daniel. R.H. Miller writes, "The Destructors may be Green's best story, and perhaps one of the finest in the language. It has all the qualities that have come to be expected in a short story: focus, compression, pace, and that element of surprise, that epiphany that brings one to recognizing a powerful truth." Do you agree? Can you find examples of these?
I agree completely. I
Can you
completely agree.
Can you find some examples? Can you think of a few examples? And also, we got to be clear what these things mean: focus,
Mm-hmm.
compression, pace, and
I don't
surprise.
Pace. I don't know the meaning.
Pace is how fast or slow something goes.
Oh.
So the pace of the story. If it's lots and lots and lots of description, it could be very slow. In fact, I'm going to give a link to the word. I'm going to put a little definition there for you. So the pace was pretty quick, don't you think? When you were reading the story, it didn't feel slow and boring. You agree? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, the pace of the story was not slow, it was pretty fast.
Yes, in 2 days, I think.
No, I don't mean our reading. I mean the actual story itself. When we were reading,
Okay.
it went quickly and smoothly. It wasn't slow and boring. It was quick and
No.
exciting.
Yes.
So that's the pace. How it feels to read. Is it easy? Is it quick? Is it exciting? Or is it
Uh,
slow and boring and descriptive? Let me see if I can
mhm.
put in the link there to the definition of pace. And what about compression? Was the story compressed?
Compression. It's a. I think it's a vocabulary. The the vocabulary used. It's quite easy for me,
Mm-hmm.
for my beginning upper.
Uh-huh. Well, you're not a beginner, but
I don't know,
uh,
intermediate. It. I don't know.
so compression here is about here. It's not about the vocabulary exactly. What R.H. Miller means by compression is the time inside the story. How is time handled in the story? In other words, do we read about every single moment happening as we read it? Or does the story jump forward in time? Are there jumps? Is time compressed? Is time made to go faster in some way? Now that could be, yeah.
I think it's the story have a only line on time. They don't jump.
There's one timeline, yeah. Well, there is one thing that happens which I think is really interesting is that at the end of the story, the moment we hear about the man, the old miser coming home, there is a kind of a jump. We go from the inside of the house with the kids, then
Mhm.
we jump to the outside, and actually we jump back in time because we hear the old man coming and the kid whistles and says, "Come on, the old man's coming," right?
Mhm.
And then when we cut like a camera, like a not camera, like a movie, when we there's a jump cut outside. We cut to the outside, and the old man is looking at the house, and he doesn't notice anything unusual because he doesn't know what's happening inside.
Mhm.
But he hears the whistle. He hears a kid whistling, and then these kids come running out. So actually, I think we've jumped back 5 minutes in time, and we replay that scene just like a movie. We replay it again, but from his point of view. And the rest of the story is very cleverly from his point of view. We don't get to see what the kids are doing when he's locked in the outhouse. So it's like a camera was positioned in two places. I think it's very clever because when you're using words, it's very easy to just describe everything how you're thinking about it. But Graham Greene uses the words like a camera in a particular place, looking as an observer, looking at a particular thing. And there is a bit of compression, or maybe the opposite, decompression, because he actually, I could be wrong, but I think he actually plays that scene two times once from the kid's point of view and once from the man's point of view. Um, I don't remember the exact year that this was written, but somewhere around the time that this story was written, um, Akira Kurosawa's famous movie, The Seventh Samurai, was in the theaters, and maybe that was arguably the first film that, at least the first popular film that was a big success, that really looked at time in a different way, because everyone's perspectives were shown and time was kind of repeated. And Graham Greene is, I think, doing something similar, but just in one part of the story. So it makes me wonder if he had seen that film before writing this, or if that was just something that was going on at that period of time, because it's very interesting. Not that they were the first people to do it, but something that might have been going on. Last question, then we're going to move on to our new story. The seventh question there is, the story is thought to be a parable and an allegory. What are these things, and in what way is the story both? So when we think of parables, usually we think of something religious. Do you know what I mean by parable?
Yes, in the Bible.
In the Bible, right.
A little story with the end you can learn something.
Exactly. So a story that's meant to teach you something.
Mm.
And allegory, I'll put a link to allegory as well. Allegory is like a kind of a metaphor. In fact, here you can even see, I'm going to put a link there to Wikipedia. Allegory is a literary device. In its most general sense, is an extended metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we know what those two things are. Let's go with the allegory first. What do you think the allegory of the story is? It's a bunch of kids in World War II doing something clever and unexpected. So what do you think is the allegory, or what do you think the allegory is that Graham Greene is trying to show us? What's the metaphor? In your opinion, of course.
Metaphor.
Is the story metaphorical?
It's about how society can be blackmailed for criminal minds. I don't know.
Who was blackmailed in the story? You mean the old man?
In this case, no, it's not blackmail. It's to threatening, threatening the neighborhood by destroying a house. If you are a neighbor and you see what happened,
right,
you will be
you will feel threatened. Feel threatened.
You will feel threatened.
So do you think the kids were trying to scare the neighbors? Or do you think they were trying to do something else? Because for me, what I felt from the story was that the kids are somehow taking the place of the adults. They act like kids in a way, but somehow they're more adult than the adults because they're organized. And the destruction of the house, at least when I read it, gave me the feeling that these kids are being creative. It's ironic, it's destruction, but at the same time, it's like creativity for them, because they're so detailed in how they plan it and how they carry it out, that it doesn't feel like destruction. It feels like a form of creativity. Like they took their play that they normally do, and it's an exaggerated form of play. And the driver at the end, who actually knocks down the house by accident, he's laughing, and there must be a reason why he's laughing. So here's my theory. The reason that the driver is laughing is because on some level he understands that these kids were playing a game, and everyone, it's the thing that the society was missing in that wartime. Even though it was a terrible game, he it was something that everyone kind of needed, something that just I don't know, took them out of the reality of the misery that they were feeling because the whole city was destroyed. And even though they destroyed this house, somehow he gets the fact that it's a game, that these kids have no other. So
Uh-huh. Hmm.
it feels like that to me. I don't
Hmm.
know. That's
Yeah,
my theory.
he thought it's a kind of a kind of boy games.
Exactly. Just
Mm.
taken to an extreme because they're living in really extreme times. They're all
Ma-
traumatized, because of the war.
Maybe in the middle of the destroyed city, you could think it's a game, but in without bombs or war to do or doing that things, it will be terrible.
Exactly. It,
The lorry, the driver didn't laugh.
if it were in another context, then absolutely
Yeah.
it would be difficult, I think. But here I think they get it. And I think the old man, the story stops before we really get we hear the old man's reaction, but we don't really know what happens afterwards. But on the other hand, you know, it's not that obvious what is right and wrong in the story. So I don't think Graham Greene is trying to say that destroying someone's property is a good thing. I think that he's trying to say that there's something we have to question because the old man, in a way, there's something wrong with him and he needs kind of to wake up. And the kids have done that. They've woken him up in a way. On the other hand, the guy's going to be homeless now. That's a terrible thing.
Mhm.
So, do you think the old man's going to be okay?
I think it won't be okay.
Well,
So, uh, he all his worries was destroyed.
well, because it's after the war, I think that there's like the Red Cross and things like that to help people who don't have anything. So, in a way, I think he's going to get the help that he needs because of the situation. But yeah. Also, let me ask you another question. He's really the only adult that we get to see in the story, right? I mean, we hear about the parents, but we only see him. Do you think
Mhm.
that he represents adulthood in some way? Represents the adults that lived through the war? He's the only one that we see, except for the driver, but the driver is at the very end, and he's different somehow. So do you think the old man is part of the allegory? Do you think he's metaphorical in some way? And if so, what's the metaphor?
Mm. What's the metaphor about the old man was the only adult?
Yeah, what do you think he represents in the story?
Wisdom.
And do you think he's wise? He can
Mm,
represent a kind of wisdom, sure. Do you think he's a
mm,
wise person? Or do you think that he's kind of a pathetic person?
pathetic.
And what makes him pathetic?
Uh, uh, it's a dumb man. It's a fool. No fool. He it's a monotone life. I don't know.
Okay, why so?
Because um, because they they didn't do extra. They daily he do the same.
Exactly. He's stuck. He can't change. Yeah,
Mm.
I agree. So my theory is you're right. He's not monotone, but monotonous.
Not.
Monotonous, right? He's monotonous. He's stuck in the past, and somehow the kids destroying his house will
Okay.
will
Mhm.
will force him to change.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think part of the allegory is
Mm-mm.
that these kids, even though they're destructors, are able to make the adults or have the potential to make the adults see what's really going on and wake up and move forward.
Yeah,
This guy, yeah,
they are waiting for a new fresh start.
exactly. So if you've got no house and they've burned your money for fun, you pretty much have nothing to go back to. And I think that that's why this guy. Uh, I think I can't remember if Graham Greene won the Nobel Prize or not, but I know he was. He was. I think he did actually. But anyway, if not, he was nominated for it. And I think that's part of the reason why the story is simple, but there's a lot more going on if when you start to think about the bigger picture. Why? Also, why is there just one adult character? Well, because we learn about we learn everything we need to know about the adults from one man. We don't need to see any others. Just his relationship with the kids is enough to tell us that Graham Greene thinks, or the author is trying to say something like, we can't be stuck in the past, no matter how traumatic the present is. So it's kind of a wake-up call, I think. All right, we need to start another story, and we have to give Moises the chance to read because he hasn't read the other story. So, uh, good discussion. I'm glad you liked the story. And Daniel,
Yeah.
you should read Graham Greene because he's fun to read because he's easy to read. It's not difficult to
Yeah.
follow, and
Mhm.
so you can get a lot out of it. And I'm going to try to find some more Graham Greene stories as well. Maybe we can do another one. But as I said, this one is kind of maybe his big famous classic one that everyone talks about. So we started there. Let's take a look at the fox. There's our fox. This story has a lot of bad words, but I took out the bad words. So you'll see. So we're not going to read the bad words because we're broadcasting live on YouTube, but it's an interesting story nonetheless. So uh, this is a story this is a recent short story, not like a Graham Greene classic short story, but it's interesting. Um, what do I want to say about it? I wanted to say that, uh, as the title suggests, it's a story about a daughter, but a daughter. I'm going to give away the secret of the story because the title pretty much does it. Uh, the Fox gives you an unusual view of relationships because, as the title suggests, the narrator's daughter is not human. But the feelings between the mother and the daughter are somehow universal. So let's hold on to the idea of allegory, if not allegory and parable, as we read this story and figure out what we think about it. Also, we can compare this to Graham Greene because it's written in a very different style. So that's something else we can talk about as we go on. Um, so I think we should just jump right into the reading. What do you think, guys? So Moises, are you ready to read today?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Thank you for being patient while we
Uh,
talked about the other story.
no, you're welcome. I was hearing I was hearing and trying to check some meanings that I probably study in high school, but I was remember exactly the meaning of allegory and things like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I had more or less an idea, but I was not very good on in literature. So so it's good for me to remember that kind of literature figures.
Absolutely. Very good to hear. Well,
Mm.
we can use those to talk about this story as well. This story it's similar to Graham Greene's story in that it's in parts. Just like Graham Greene had 4 parts, this one has got 7. So we'll probably do the first 2 today, I think, and then we're going to continue next Tuesday, and probably the last class will be on Thursday of next week. So let's think about those things: parable, allegory, metaphor, those kind of things as we read this, and see, it'll help us to figure out what the story is really about. Because sometimes it's not just about the words, it's about what's underneath the words, what's behind the words. So, Moises, why don't you start? First part, you start
Okay,
reading, we're all going to take a turn. So you start here.
okay. We had a night of it, my daughter and I, with the foxes screaming outside. I had to stroke her fur and
Fur.
hold her fur. I
Hmm.
had to stroke her fur and hold her close all night. She snuggled up, her wet nose against my neck. Every time they howled,
Howled.
howled,
You can picture in your mind the sound of a wild animal howling. Howl!
howled.
That's it.
Every time they howled, she'd startle and raise her ears. I could feel the pulse of her heart beat on my chest, strong, strong and fast. Strange how eerie the foxes sounded to me. I didn't compare
One quick thing. How eerie the foxes sounded.
how eerie the foxes sounded to me. Eerie, how eerie.
I'll put a link to that word as well, so you can look it up later. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I didn't compare my daughter's noises to theirs. Moonlight came in through our bedroom window. The night outside seemed still and slow, except for the
Except.
except for the cries of the foxes. It must have been at least 3 in the morning before we both fell into a deep sleep, her paw resting gently on my shoulder. In my dream, I dreamt of being a fox myself, of the 2 of us running through the forest, our red bushy tails flickering through the dark trees, our noses sniffing rain in the autumn air.
Excellent. So, what do we notice about the daughter already in the first paragraph? Is the daughter a normal baby, or is the daughter different, Moises?
Uh, Probably different.
I think so. What are some words that help you see that this is not a normal baby?
Uh,
Are we able to see an image of her daughter?
mm, Is
Want to help him out, Daniel? What are some
What
clues?
what nose
Yeah,
belong to an animal?
I'll make a little comment here. I'll put a comment on the right. So, what other clues are there that her daughter is not human? So, the first one, I agree with Daniel. The wet nose. Most human babies don't have that moist, wet nose like dogs have, in this case, foxes. So the wet nose. And what about this? Her her paw resting on my shoulder. What is this? What's a paw?
I don't know
What's a paw?
what part of animal.
Yeah, what part of the animal is the paw?
it's like the under the head, like it's in the neck. Between,
Not exactly. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can show you a picture. Huh? That's not what I want to show you. Huh?
I know these cartoons.
It's not what I wanted to show you though. Why does it say Paw Patrol? I don't want to see that. Let me go to images. There you go. That's the paw.
okay, so it's the
Look, there's a nice picture here.
The leg.
The foot. The foot.
The foot.
the footprint.
Not just the footprint, but the foot itself. It's the paw. And let's see if we get a better picture. These are all footprints because it's what comes up first, but... Well, anyway, there we go. That is a nice paw. Look at that. Oh, what a nice paw. So that's a paw. So human babies have feet. They don't have paws. So we've got the wet nose. We've got the paw. I compared my daughter's nose to theirs, right? She's giving us all these clues that her daughter is a little different than regular daughters. And one more thing. Here, every time they howled, she startled and raised her ears, just like an animal. Their ears perk up when they hear something. Sometimes they hear things that we can't hear. Like dogs have a higher sense of hearing than we do. So all these clues that she's different.
But maybe the mother could be an animal too.
I don't think so, because look, in my dream, I dreamt of being a fox myself. So that means that she's not really a fox, because
No.
only in her dream is she a fox.
But it could be a dog or a cat.
She could be a duck or a horse. But I don't think so. I don't think so, because I think there's a metaphor and an allegory here too. So I think she's a normal person. And that's the strange part. Why does she have a daughter who is not human? But we'll see. We have to look for clues in the text. So Daniel, why don't you take paragraph 2 for us?
Okay. In the morning, I sat her in her wooden high chair, and she watched my busy myself around the kitchen.
She watched me busy myself.
She watched me busy myself.
When you say busy myself, that means do little errands. You know, things that you do in the kitchen. I'm busying myself. In other words, I'm making myself busy doing normal things. Not important things, but normal things. Making myself busy.
Chores. Could be
Chores. Right, doing chores.
Okay. I gave her a fresh bowl of water and a raw eggs. She cracked the shell herself and slurped the yellow yolk in one gulp. I could tell she was still a little drowsy. She was breathing peacefully, and slowly, her little red chest rising and falling, Her eyes literally followed me from counter to cupboard out into the hall to pick up the pots from the raffia mat and back again. I poured her a bowl of muesli and put some
Muesli. We say
mus-
muesli.
muesli and put some fresh blueberries in it. She enjoys that. Nobody tells you how flattering it is, how loved you feel, your child following your every move like that. Her beady eyes watched me open my post as if it was the most interesting thing anybody could do. The post was dull as usual, a gas bill and junk. I sighed, went to the kitchen bin and threw everything in but the bin. When I turned back around, there she still was, smiling at me, her fur curling around her mouth. Her eyes lit up, fierce with love. When she looked at me from those deep dark eyes of hers, straight at me and, and through me, I felt more understood than I have ever felt from any look by anybody.
Wow. In what way is her daughter like a fox, and in what way is her daughter like a normal human? Because it seems to be a kind of mixture of both. At least that's my impression.
I think babies are seems like baby animals.
Right.
Their reactions in general is like a puppy. They want to be protect, feeding, and warm, and they they want to be all time hacking.
Touched, yeah. We say they want to be touched.
Sorry,
Want to be touched.
they want to be touched. Yes, they want to feel secure.
Absolutely. So it seems to be both of that going on here. So those universal qualities, needing to be protected, cared for, touched, and Moises, what do you think? In this paragraph, in what ways is the daughter clearly not a human? Look at the text and see if you have a few clues. In what way is she clearly a fox and not a human?
Uh, yeah, I think in this sentence it could be
Sentence
both.
or paragraph?
But well, the sentence you are just highlight.
Ah, okay.
I sat her in her wooden high chair and she watched me busy myself around the kitchen. In this sentence, it could be both. It could be
Right.
a human or it could be an animal, either a dog or a dog, for example.
But
Uh,
high chairs are for babies. So a high chair is that special chair you put your kids in that's higher than normal chairs so that they can reach the table. So you could put an animal in it. I guess some people will. If you want your dog to eat at the table, I guess it's possible. But in that first sentence, right, when you see high chair, oh, we think baby. It's got to be a baby. And then what happens after that? What gives you the idea that she's clearly not a baby or not a human baby?
and she watched me busy myself around the kitchen. She started to observe my movements, to look at everything I do.
Right.
But this could be both. Either an animal could follow a person what she's doing, and also a baby.
Absolutely, yeah. And later on, do we get the idea that she's not human?
Yes, yes.
Because
Later on, I gave her a fresh bowl of water, and she cracked the shell herself, and yeah,
raw eggs, it's strange to give for a baby
You,
yes.
you, you don't
No,
give your
well,
without
kids
cooking,
raw eggs. That's true.
no cooking. Red chest.
Yeah, we've got red chest here.
Mm,
And also, just the way her eyes literally followed me from counter to cupboard, like my cat will stare at me endlessly because he just wants to be fed, right? So he'll just stare at all of us until we give him something, trying to make us feel guilty. Just stare and stare and stare. And then occasionally he'll say something in his cat language, like, give me food. But he'll just look at you and try to make you feel uncomfortable, just staring at you. And so the animals have nothing else to do. So anytime you're doing something, they're living in the present, right? They don't tend to have, as far as we know, a past, present, and future like we do. So they've got nothing else to do but look at you. So it kind of reminds me of that. But you're right, the red chest and her beady eyes is another clue. Beady eyes means that you don't see the white in the eyes. So like if you look at a rat or a mouse, it's all black. In animals, the way the eyes are set in the head, you usually can't see the white part. So we sort of say that as beady, like little beads in a necklace. Beads, little gems or dark stones. They look like beads. Or beads can be made of wood. Beads can be made of anything. What you wear in a necklace. If your eyes are like beads, you only see the dark part of the eye. So she has beady eyes. Children don't have beady eyes at all. They have big eyes. They have blue eyes. They have many colors. But animals are beady-eyed. Okay? Okay, and the other universal thing is that being watched like this makes the mother feel loved because they have this connection. And I think that's the interesting part of the story already. We're picking up all these universal qualities. So it's an alien situation. It's unusual, but we understand it right away. So it's very interesting. Her eyes lit up with love. Okay, we're on to part two. That was part one. I'll do this first part for you. Actually, we don't have a lot of time, so let me see. Let me do this one, and maybe we're going to have to stop there. Part two. Nobody says much, and nothing prepares you. I've often wondered why women don't warn each other properly about the horrors of childbirth. There is something medieval about the pain, the howling, the pushing. In the birthing room next door, the November night my daughter was born, I heard a woman scream, "Kill me, just kill me." And that was just after my waters had broken. An hour later, I heard her growl in a deep animal voice, "Effing shoot me." We're not going to say the bad words, but you know what she's saying. I tried to imagine the midwife's black face. We were sharing her. The midwife is the woman who helps with childbirth. In the old days, there were no doctors. You had midwives. Nowadays, it's less common, but you still have midwives, people that are just there to help a woman give birth, that are not doctors. I tried to imagine the midwife's black face. We were sharing her, and she was running back and forth between stations. She held my head and said, "You're in control of this." But I felt as if my body was exploding. I felt as if I should descend down into the bowels of the earth and scrape and claw. Nothing prepares you for the power of the contractions and how they rip through your body like a tornado or an earthquake. Then the beautiful, spacey peace between contractions where you float and dream away out to sea. Wow.
Very good
Giving
description.
giving birth must be pretty awful.
I watched it. I was watching
Did she
my child's birth.
did she threaten to kill you? Did she say, "This is your fault, Daniel"?
I I was stayed and mute my voice, grab my wife hand, and then it happened.
There you go. So she didn't get angry at you. You did this to me. It's your fault.
I've heard many stories about the birth.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's funny telling the story, but not living the story.
Well, I've only had to hear the stories. I haven't had to live them myself, but I can imagine. Well, let's see. I think we're going to have to stop here because let me just see how short this is. If we start now, we're going to pretty much run out of time. Well, maybe we have time for one more. All right, Moises, maybe we have time for one last paragraph.
Okay.
Go for it. But we only have about 2 minutes, so
Okay, I will be quick.
okay.
Many of my friends were mothers. I asked some really hard, and they all smiled and said, a bit, Holy Mary, Mother of Wood. I was as surprised as the Jamaican midwife when my daughters, the fox, came out. I should have known, really. Her father was a foxy man, sly and devout, and I found
Devious.
and I found out later was already seeing two other women when he got me pregnant. That night under the full moon, on our way up north for that weekend I saw a dead fox on the hard shoulder. It was lying, curled, and the red of the blood was much darker than the red of the fur. When we made love in the small double bed in room 2 at the bed and breakfast place by Coniston waiter, I could still see the dead fox at the side of the road. It haunted me all the way through my pregnancy. I knew the minute I was pregnant, almost the second the seed had found its way up. I could smell everything differently. I smelled an orange so strongly I almost vomited.
There you go. Well, I want you to think of this is kind of a weird image. So she's haunted by this image of a dead fox on the road, and yet she gives birth to a fox. and her father was a foxy man. Think about what that means, a foxy man. Foxy can mean attractive. Foxy can mean clever. In this case, he was foxy, sly, and devious. So be very careful if you have a one-night stand with someone you don't know. If they're foxy, that could mean trouble later. So think about this as over the weekend. I think what we're going to do is you can go ahead and read part 2 on your own. Maybe if I have time, I'll try to put a few questions here for you to think about here. I can make a few discussion questions here later. Okay, so hold on to that link and check back later today. I'll be back in just a moment. We're going to start our business class, our very last class in the business unit on change coming up, and we're going to be having a business meeting to talk about change in an organization that will help make it more efficient. We'll be doing this class again next Tuesday at 10 GMT, 10 London time, 11 out there in Spain. Okay? So,
Okay.
stick around and we'll do our business class next. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye.
See you soon.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.